So you have to make a decision. What's more important? Are you going to help that person out there that needs your help? Or are you going to not call because you're going to offend a bunch of people? So I made my choice to help out those people that need my help.
Welcome to the Get Traction podcast. If you are ready to learn exactly what it takes to become a real estate entrepreneur, this is the show for you. With your host, founder of Traction Real Estate Mentors and president of the Traction Real Estate Investors Association, Tom Zeeb.
Welcome back, everyone. It's Tom Zeeb with the Get Traction podcast and with my producer, Harry Duran. Hey, Harry.
Hey, Tom.
So, Harry, what I thought would be great for this episode is to bring a guest in. One of my successful students, his name is Mike, and I want to interview him. And I think it'll be inspirational and informational for everyone to hear about Mike's story and what's happened and how he's changed and what he's gotten out of working with me to become a successful real estate investor.
Yeah, I think that's really important sometimes because a lot of what people hear on these episodes, it may seem like just theory to them and they're wondering, well, has anyone actually done this? Has anyone had success with it? So I think bringing Mike on is going to be pretty helpful so they can hear it straight from someone who's had challenges and wondering what to do when they were getting started and worked with you and had some success.
Awesome. Well, let's patch him in. Mike, welcome to the program.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being here. Hey, I wanted to ask you a bunch of questions about your experience and your journey becoming a real estate investor, because I think it'll be beneficial to all our listeners.
Okay.
So I want you to, let's start off by turn the clock back to before you met me. Think back a few years. What were you struggling with? What was life like for you? Where were you at? What were you frustrated by? Let's talk to those points.
Okay. Well, I lived in Miami for 2 years. And, I was doing import-export with Tanzanite gemstones. It was really a difficult market. I wanted to stick to something, an industry that wasn't going away, where there was a lot of demand. So real estate just made sense to me. Basically, one of my friends introduced me to Traction. He's an entrepreneur in the area. And, it just went from there. I really liked it.
What was it that you found attractive about the program? I mean, what was it that made you say, yeah, I want this, I can do this, this is for me?
I just recognized that there was a lot of authenticity there. All the people I met were really professionals that were actually in the game. And it wasn't a get-rich-quick scheme. These people actually had success with Tom's program. So, I figured I'd give it a shot, and it definitely was worth it.
Did you have any real estate experience before, Mike?
No.
No, none at all?
Yeah, I read Rich Dad Poor Dad. That was that was really the extent of it. I think everyone's read that book that's gotten into real estate.
Yeah, it's amazing how that's inspired people, and yet also then leaves them helpless because there's what do I do?
Yeah, exactly. It doesn't actually tell you the fundamentals, right?
No, there's no how to. Interesting.
Right.
So you came into my Rapid Cash Generator Bootcamp raw, no experience.
Yeah.
Not knowing what to do, and what changed? Tell us about some of the successes you had and how you changed through the process.
I really had to adapt to the marketplace. I was used to business sales, and doing B2C, business to customer. It's a much different situation. The public, you get a lot of variety with the people you deal with, so you really have to toughen up internally to deal with it. But yeah, I jumped right into it. I started cold calling commercial property listing agents. I just, must have called like 40 to 50, something like that. Found a few that were taking me seriously. Was able to wholesale 2 multifamily properties, 22 units in total. So that was a big success right out of the gate. I kind of got off track from wholesaling though. I started doing 0% seller financing, which is a great strategy. But in this market, I just really couldn't see that working.
You came out of my boot camp, did 2 multifamily wholesale deals. You said 22 units total?
Yeah, 22.
Okay. And how much did you make on those as wholesales?
Really, I think it was 20,000 total.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So, it's an impressive thing to say I did 22 units, but at the same time, the money just wasn't that great. So I figured, okay, if I focus on single family homes, some of your students had successes that were like really, really up there, like, 40,000, 50,000. And those were just, starter homes. So I wanted to, duplicate that. But yeah, in 2016, I really tried to hit it hard, mainly focusing on Northern Virginia. Because the houses are worth so much money there, I thought I could get really, really big wholesale fees. But that's really, not the area of the market that you need to focus on as a wholesaler. you want to kind of go whatever the middle is, the middle of the market, you want to, target a little bit below that. So, starter homes, blue collar areas, those are really the best markets to focus on.
The classic bread and butter sweet spot.
Exactly. And, the way I look at it is you have a huge inflow and outflow of people moving into that market.
Mm-hmm.
So there's always people that are downsizing and people that are, buying in different areas. So that the turnaround is really, really quick. So you can go in there, rehab a property, and be out in 3 months with your check. That's the way I look at that.
Because that lower middle of the market has a nice consistency because they're homes that everybody needs at some point. They're starter homes that you either eventually outgrow, but then you sell it to someone who's just like you when you started.
Exactly.
Gotcha.
And basically, the problem that I came across in Northern Virginia is, majority of those people, they've got lines of credit, they've got money saved up. So there really isn't a motivation to sell. So I actually did over 100 offers in that market.
Mm-hmm.
And then I actually got 6 under contract in 2016.
Okay.
But, I was so new, my buyer's list was only like 100 people. So I actually had to pull out of all 6 of those properties. And it was kind of upsetting to go back a couple months later and see that, the majority of them had sold
Mm-hmm.
for around the price I put it under contract that I was going to flip it for.
Gotcha.
So, so that's the big takeaway is to focus on your buyer's list.
Focus on your buyer's list and make sure you have the right people to buy from you. Do you think maybe you could have done something with those had you had a more diverse buyer's list?
Absolutely. I mean, I could have easily made, 6 figures that year if I actually had real cash buyers.
Okay. So what changed? What made you turn it around then? Because a lot of people can't get smacked in the face that many times without falling
Right.
down. So how did you get back up and keep going?
First of all, I wasn't going to let them win. I dealt with a lot of really nasty personalities in Nova. The way I kind of just made it like an adversarial thing. I got treated so poorly. Okay, well, I'm gonna get back in the game. Some books I read that really helped me, to kind of craft this way of thinking. Obstacle is the Way by Ryan Holiday.
Mm-hmm.
That's a book that goes into like Stoic philosophy from Rome. And believe it or not, that actually really, really helped me to go forwards.
I'm a big Seneca fan. It's like the ultimate.
Oh, really?
Yeah, probably the best
Nice.
philosophy for life.
The other book too, really, really impressive. It's by this author, Robert Greene. It's called The 50th Law, and it was co-written with the rapper 50 Cent. That book really teaches you, how to hustle. And I think that's a skill, if you come from, kind of a white collar background, white collar neighborhood, really making a profit at the bottom level is not really what we're taught. We're taught to go to school, get a great job, and then, just kind of climb the corporate ladder. So if you don't know how to hustle, that's really going to put you at a disadvantage. And believe it or not, just reading a $10 book will actually make you a ton of money.
Interesting. So now you've had to overcome your indoctrination from growing up or from school,
Exactly.
for lack of a better word. And it sounds like that's been a little bit of a struggle and a process to overcome.
Yeah.
Now that you've come out the other side of that, you've focused back in on real estate. And what have the last few deals been like?
Yeah, just, super, super easy, actually, believe it or not. One deal I just did last month, it was an awesome deal, made $27,000. That was a probate, actually. Every deal is different, but you basically get better every time. So,
Mm-hmm.
it's just like weightlifting. The first time you try to pick up a weight, it's going to be difficult. You do it more and more, it gets easier. So you want to just keep increasing what you're doing, increase the volume. Like for me, I do cold calls.
Mm-hmm.
Almost exclusively, just because I don't have the ad budget to do direct mail. That was really, really difficult at first, but now I'm at the point where I can cold call anybody. I don't care.
Gotcha. So hang on a second, because there's some interesting points there. You're doing cold calling because you haven't had the budget to spend on mailing. So
Right.
Getting into this without because some people say, oh, do I have to be rich to get rich? Your answer is
No,
no,
absolutely
no.
not.
So you have to find the right marketing that fits for your budget, and you're finding
Right.
without a large budget, let's do the things that maybe take more time but cost less money,
Exactly.
such as cold calling.
And that's also what I love about your boot camp is, when I first approached it, I didn't really understand just how impressive it actually is, because there's so many different ways to make money with your boot camp. It just, whatever your personality and financial needs and goals are, you can find a solution for what you're trying to do. So for example, if you've got, a 9 to 5 job, you really don't have much time to cold call, but you've got, $200, $500 a month, you could spend on direct mail. Okay, well, that's something that you can do. You can even do both, if that makes sense.
Oh, absolutely. And so you found it that I kind of was able to draw out your personality and what was going to fit you like a glove, which is different than the person sitting
Right,
next to you because they need a different glove. But there's
right. Like,
something for everyone if you look at it the right way.
yeah. Because I mean, like, for me, direct mail just seems too passive because you really just have to wait for them to call you.
Hmm.
And I did do that, but it's for me, it's just not the best fit. I like to be more proactive. Something I do want to get into soon also is door knocking.
Hmm.
I'm really afraid of that, but I just have to get over it because
Were you afraid of cold calling at the beginning as well?
I was used to B2B cold calling,
Hmm.
but dealing with the public, I mean, you don't get the same professionalism, I hate to say, that you do calling businesses. I mean, right out of the break, like probably 30 to 40% of the people you're going to cold call are not going to be nice to you. If you're cold calling with probate, it's even worse, because you're dealing with people that they've recently had a loved one pass, and the way I look at this, you don't want to be heartless about it, but at the same point, there's someone out there who needs your help. So you have to make a decision. What's more important? Are you going to help that person out there that needs your help, or are you going to not call because you're going to offend a bunch of people? So I made my choice to help out those people that need my help.
Excellent. So the thought of helping that person powers you through and outweighs and helps you filter out all the noise of the negative naysayers along the way who are going to complain.
Absolutely.
Gotcha. So it's a key, you would say, to your internal game, to your mental game, is to focus on what your mission is. Your mission is to help people do deals and make money, and then not worry about people that raise a fuss in the process.
Right. Yeah. Because it can't just be about making money. I mean, that can motivate some people, but
Mhm.
you're going to get hit so many different ways. You've got to have some type of other purpose. You really have to focus on what value are you providing the market.
Fantastic.
And for me, that's how I view it. There's people out there who, they need to get this estate property sold, but for whatever reason, they just can't focus on it, or they're busy, or they don't know who to trust. So I can come in, offer them a solution, and it works out. I mean, we made $27,000 last month. So
It's not a bad month.
right.
How many deals have you done total now, Mike?
Let's see. I think 5.
Excellent. For a grand total of about,
I'd say like probably 60,000.
good.
The way I look at that is you're not repeating the same year going forwards. It's not going to be the same. So for example, the more efficient you get, that 60,000, maybe in a year or two will turn into 200,000. If I keep at it, it could turn into 4 or 5.
Mm-hmm.
I know one wholesaler who's bringing in $200,000 a month. He has a staff of like 10 people. You can really scale this business up, to really crazy levels.
Right. And you're operating alone, correct?
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to do right now. I have other partners that I do work with,
Mhm.
but every time you work with somebody, your fee's getting diluted. The way I look at it. So
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
and working by yourself, that really gives you a skill that no one can take away. You're not relying on anybody. You're not dependent on anyone. So that's something I really want to just craft in myself.
So we've made you fully independent.
Yeah, you have, and I owe you big for that. So I really thank
Cool.
you.
Fantastic. I'm glad. It's something. It's something I teach to everyone. Maybe preach it a little bit. Like, hey, if you get independent and you can do something, no one can ever take that away from you. And no matter what happens, you'll be okay because you can just go out and make it rain for yourself. And there's a
Right.
quiet
Exactly.
power to that. That's hard to explain if someone's relying on the corporate 9 to 5 paycheck or something like
Yeah.
that. Can vanish, and if that vanishes, now what? But what you've learned, it can never vanish.
And it's really cool too, because even if you do have that 9 to 5, if you get this skill, believe it or not, that's going to, roll over to your current 9 to 5. So it's like the more independent you get, that's going to reflect in your work. Those skills do transfer. So this can really work for somebody, who has the job or somebody who doesn't. It doesn't matter. Really, it's self-improvement at the end of the day.
Now, one of the big things I focus on, both self-improvement and business improvement wise, is negotiation. So talk about, how's my negotiation training changed you?
Okay, so basically, I was negotiating with this attorney who was military intelligence. This was like about a month ago. Actually, this $27,000 deal,
Hmm.
so it was about 2 months ago. And I knew all the games that he was throwing out because I took your course. And that guy was military intelligence.
Gotcha.
Just to give you an idea of what level your negotiation is at.
That's pretty impressive to for Tom to give you the skill set to handle a negotiation with an ex-military.
Yeah, it's awesome. I mean, basically the way I look at this is it's like tennis, right? So they have their needs and then you have your needs. No one's taking advantage of anyone because you're playing tennis, you're in the game. So there's different, tactics and strategies that you need to know. And if you don't know it, you're just going to get rolled every time. It's kind of like economics. If you don't understand the fundamentals of economics, you can't have a conversation on it.
Gotcha.
That's the way I look at that. So yeah, definitely, it's made me a lot tougher as a person.
Hmm. So you felt well matched against someone with theoretically a lot more negotiating experience. In military intelligence is usually, quite well trained for that kind of thing. So you didn't feel at a disadvantage. If anything, it was a fun game of chess
Right.
because you were playing against another grandmaster.
Exactly. So it's like I may not be as impressive as him in terms of at all, but because I understood what the goalposts were, it was just a lot easier, and we were actually able to meet in the middle. I got his needs met, and then I got mine met. So it was just a much easier kind of fluid conversation, just because both parties knew what was going on.
Excellent. Did you find my negotiation training difficult or confusing?
Not at the surface. A lot of the conditioning that I had about just business in general, it was kind of hard for me to get over that. That wasn't the fault of the program. That was just my own stuff I had to work through.
Hmm.
Like, for example, I was really, really just too nice in the beginning. I'd always, whenever somebody would say, sorry, we can't go lower than, 220 or whatever, I would actually honor that. I wouldn't try to probe deeper. Yeah. So, I mean, I guess it's human nature to do that, but it's not going to get you rich.
I think we had a conversation once about killing your inner nice guy.
Yeah, pretty much. That's what I did.
And the distincting thing, some people say, oh, well, you're not teaching someone to be mean. There's a difference between being a nice guy and being a good guy. I want you to be a good guy, but that doesn't mean being a nice guy. And there's a shade of gray there that needs to be delineated.
And that's the thing, like that nuance itself is probably the biggest get you can get. You've helped me do that, this absolutely. You really have to focus on what your needs are. So for example, if you know that you can't do this deal without, making a $10,000 fee, well, that's what the numbers are. So you can't go up to what they're asking. You just have to focus on what your needs are.
Gotcha. Tell us about another story, either where negotiation came into play or another deal or another time you felt like you overcame some adversity and got the deal done.
There was one deal I did a few months back in Southeast DC. And, I'm sure you're aware that the TOPA rights situation, if there's a tenant in Southeast, is really, really difficult.
So yeah, these are, just to define that out for someone that's not familiar, the tenant has the right of first refusal
Right.
to buy a property, even if, so if you come in as a buyer, but there's a tenant, the tenant has the right to try to match you or outbid you.
Right. And, and on the surface, that sounds great, right? But what can end up happening is that can be used as leverage to stall and basically kill the deal. So because of that, I was able to negotiate with the seller and say, look, we need to go a little bit lower because this is going to require a lot of effort to get these TOPA rights waived. We're going to have to just do a lot of stuff. So, like, for example, cash for keys, I think that's what we ended up doing. I was just able to basically communicate more effectively and not feel afraid to really state my case. I think that's the best thing I've gotten out of your negotiation training, is just not holding myself back. And doing it in a nice way too. It's not like I'm, yelling at people, but I'm being tough.
What's interesting about the stories you're telling, Mike, is I get the sense that you were a different person in terms of like the skill set you had or where your focus was, because of the different type of job you had earlier.
Right.
But because you're entering now this new market, this new world, this new real estate market, wholesaling, and through Tom's training, it sounds like you developed and grew like a whole new set of skills that have helped you here.
Yeah, absolutely. Basically, the first thing is I believe that I could change as a person. I've probably read and also listened to, because I have like Audible, But I've probably listened and I've probably done like over 200 audiobooks just in the past few years. And that's really helped me a lot too, to really grow.
It's impressive.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, you can do that in the car. Every time you go see an appointment, just listen to an audiobook, while you're doing it instead of the radio or something. And the return you see on that is just incredible. For example, learning about value delivery. I just read this book called Thou Shall Prosper by this rabbi. His name's Daniel Lapin, I believe. That book is all about delivering value to the marketplace, and that just completely changed my perspective on business and in life, really. And that's really helped me to to focus on helping people, like I mentioned earlier.
I get the sense that you're an eternal student.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm trying to be.
It's good that way. Is how you learn.
Yeah, because if you don't, if you stop learning, you're dying. That's the way I look at that.
Yeah. No, you're either growing or you're dying.
Yeah. Like you look at people that are retirees. A lot of them die after they stop working. It's like, well, why? Because they stop learning. You're either on an upward spiral or you're on a downward spiral. Is the way I look at that.
I like the upward spiral.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
One thing that oftentimes confuses people or scares people are the legal contracts needed in real estate. How have you approached those? Were you nervous about those before? How are you handling the legal side of the business now?
Yeah. So, I really wasn't nervous before because I was used to contracts, doing B2B sales, but your contracts are phenomenal. I mean, just to talk up the boot camp again, all the contracts that you get in the boot camp, if you were to go to an attorney, an actual good attorney that knows real estate, that would definitely cost you more than the boot camp price to get all those contracts. And I've used a lot of them, not the majority of them, but definitely paid for itself. The other thing too is, as a wholesaler, every concern that you could possibly have are pretty much addressed in your contracts. It's really good. You might change some things down the line. Like, for example, what I do now with probate is I put seller must provide lockbox and front door key, day of ratification. I'll put that in the contract just so that's taken care of. I don't have to have the personal representative who's the seller in probate. I don't have to have them meet me at the property every time. I want to bring a rehabber. I've even done promissory notes instead of earnest money deposit. I mean, there's all kinds of things you can switch. As a starting point, I haven't seen a better contract out there.
Oh, fantastic. You can see, I know I told you at the boot camp a lot of the different stories behind each and every clause.
Right,
so when you say everything's covered, there's usually a story behind it, because if I've gotten tripped or fallen down or smacked in the face with something, then you design part of the contract to make sure that never happens again.
Right. So, at first glance, most people aren't going to realize just how, badass this contract is.
It seems like it's something that the contract piece, to Tom's point, seems like it would be daunting for a lot of people in the beginning because people get scared. And then, to your point, Mike, you weren't scared, but it sounds like the frameworks helped a lot.
Yeah, because one way to look at this is as long as you understand what that contract does, you shouldn't be afraid of it. So, for example, in Tom's contract, you have, and this is pretty standard, for wholesalers who know what they're doing, but you have an inspection period, of 2 weeks. So basically, once you put down the earnest money deposit, there's really no fear of you losing your money, because, if you have to pull out for whatever reason, let's say the foundation's bad, or, you did my mistake of only having 100 buyers, majority of them not really rehabbers, and you have to pull out, there's going to be no problem. You're going to get your money back.
Well, that's in there to not just protect you, but it also motivates you, because if you're using my contract and you can't get stuck, you can't fail, and you can't lose money, then why the heck wouldn't you try?
Right. Yeah. There's literally no downside risk. You're the only thing you're doing is wasting time if you don't get a deal, but you're still growing at the same point. So
yeah, you're still growing and learning.
Yeah. I mean, it's like, what other business can you do where you can't make money? You can only make money. I mean, it's just a no-brainer.
Heads I win, tails you lose. It's perfect.
Right, exactly.
Hey, Mike, step into the shoes of someone that was in the same spot you were 18 months ago. What advice would you give them today?
Okay, first I'd take the boot camp. I'd learn everything possible about it. I'd ask questions if I had any, and I'd definitely try to just meet people in the industry. You really just need to get kind of like an eagle eye view of what's going on, and then from there you can jump into it. Take a month to study everything, and then just jump in. I mean, the whole point is it's going to be uncomfortable, but that's kind of the price you have to pay. So just as long as you understand that you're not going to be uncomfortable in 6 months, you're not going to be uncomfortable, 3 years down the line like me, just have that faith that it's going to get easier, and it will. I mean, you're not going to be making $1 million right out of the gate. But hey, if you can make $20,000 in a couple months, it's going to be worth it. I think so.
Yeah.
And, in my success, it's like, don't view this like, this is going to be this really, really hard journey. I didn't take Tom's, I didn't do your coaching, which was a huge mistake. That would have shaved off like 2 years from my learning curve. Absolutely.
So where are you at now? You don't have full-time employment anymore. You're going to
No.
be a full-time real estate investor.
Absolutely. Yep. Now I can do it. So,
How do you feel about that?
it really hasn't hit me yet. I feel great. I mean, what I'm going through, I felt so terrible, to be frank, just with all the rejection, all the adversity I've had to face. But I'm actually getting happy every once in a while. And I don't just mean like, just feeling a little bit happy. I mean, like really, really like just awesome, because I'm realizing that what I've set out to do, I'm doing it. And it's a skill that is never going to go away from me. So it gives me a calm that is just great. For me though, I really need to focus on just repeating what I'm doing and increasing the volume. So for in other words, instead of just calling, 100 people, I've got to call like, 400 people. I've got to do it more repetitively too.
But when you're in business for yourself, the motivation is there.
Exactly. You've got bills that you have to pay. If you don't do it, no one's doing it for you. There's really no one to rely on other than yourself. And that can be, really, really uncomfortable at first, just because you feel so alone. You've got yourself. So, try to remember that. And you've also got the group, but ultimately this is a game yourself against the world in a sense, and that's okay.
But now that you've done it a few times and you've done it enough where you know you can, it's kind of what I told everyone at the boot camp is your first deal is magical. I mean, there's
Yeah.
absolutely nothing like your first time.
Yeah, that's great.
but the second time is a lot more important.
Yeah.
Because the first time, when you cash that first check, two things happen. That little voice in the back of your head starts self-doubting. It says, "Oh well, that was just luck. That had
Right,
never happened
exactly.
again."
And people are going to tell you that too. They're going to pretend that
Yes.
you just got lucky. So you have to be really, really aware of the people in your life who are going to be downing you.
Exactly. That's the other thing that happens is, all the negative naysayers in your life come out and start doubting you as well. So they're teaming up with that little voice. And what happens on the second deal is that all goes away because lightning did strike twice, and you control that zap of lightning. And then and now you've done half dozen deals, do a dozen deals, do a couple dozen deals, and next thing you know, all that odd resentment that people has turns to jealousy. Oh. Must be nice to have that lifestyle. Must be nice to make big checks like that. Must be nice to take another vacation. It is nice, but
but you worked for it.
Yeah.
You added value to the marketplace. So, if they want that, then they need to figure out how to add value. Me personally, you as well. Real estate is excellent. I mean, there's a demand for it. It's not going away. There's no, AI or robot that's going to be able to take away real estate. There's just too much nuance that is required, versus if you're a computer engineer, who knows what's going to happen in, 5 years from now in the market. They might come up with some, algorithm that will take your job.
Yes, very true. You don't know when you might be replaced. So when you were saying it's, something no one could take away from you, it's also unlikely that anyone's going to change the game on you.
Interesting. Okay. That's really smart.
Food, clothing, and
that.
shelter are basic human necessities. We deal with shelter.
Right.
So until basic human necessities that have been this way for thousands of years, until those change, we're in a really good spot.
Yeah. And also, you have so many tax advantages doing this business. I mean, especially like once you get into like, being a landlord, buy and holds and stuff. I mean, the tax law, it really incentivizes people to own real estate. So you've got that working for you.
Oh yeah, it's definitely in our favor. Mike, that's awesome. Hey, any parting words, anything you'd like to tell the folks out there that we haven't covered yet?
Yeah, so I'd say your boot camp is definitely worth it. As long as people don't quit and remember there's opportunity, they're going to make it.
Oh, I totally agree, Mike. Good stuff. So look, keep at it. Get that marketing hard. Get those deals in. How do I put this? I'm proud of you, man. I feel like a big brother.
Yeah.
I'm proud of how far you've come and, the different struggles, the adversity you've had to go to get mentally to this point. and
Yeah.
now it's starting to flow for you, and that's fantastic. That's exactly what I want for you. So I'm proud.
I appreciate it, Tom. Thanks for having me on the show.
Thanks, Mike.
Thanks for listening. Your next step is to visit gettractionpodcast.com. There you'll find all current episodes and a link to download a free copy of Tom's Deal Flow cheat sheet. Happy wholesaling!